Hi, Andrew. I haven't seen you in a long time. Why are you so sad?
Hi, Christine. I'm sad because I deposited a lot of money with Banco Filipino and it failed last week. Now I cannot get a good chunk of my money out.
Good God. I'm so sorry to hear that. Aren't you insured?
Yes, but only up to 500,000 pesos. Only the really small depositors, those with deposits below 5,000 pesos, will get their money soon. It will take some time before I can get the 500,000 pesos from the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation. Anything I have above 500,000 pesos is as good as gone. There is little hope of recovering that. There goes my life savings. I'm so screwed.
Why did you deposit your money with Banco Filipino? There are a lot of other banks around that are bigger and have more branches and offer more services.
Why? Because Banco Filipino's interest rates were very attractive. They were offering something like 6% to 13.9% interest for special savings deposits, while other banks were only offering 1% to 2%. How can you beat that? Apparently, it was too good to be true.
Yes, it usually is.
Apparently, these guys were insolvent. Most of their loans were non-performing, around 91%, according to the BSP, and more than half of their loans were loans to themselves, meaning loans to directors, officers, stockholders, etc., what they call DOSRI loans.
I heard about that.
After this tragedy happened, a banker friend of my father, let's call him Ricky, told me that Banco Filipino should have been closed years ago, maybe as early as 2002 to 2004. They were already insolvent then. At that time, around 86% of their loans were already bad. That ratio is not too far off from today's 91% NPL ratio. And DOSRI loans were already 30 to 40% of the total loan portfolio way back in 2004. Now the problem is much worse, much worse.
How is it much worse?
More people were hurt. Banco Filipino's total deposits were only 6.5 billion in 2004. Now it's 15 billion. And now, the uninsured deposits alone amount to 5.6 billion, almost the same size as the entire deposit base in 2004.
Oh my God.
The BSP likes to say that mismanagement caused the bank's failure. They said that what the bank took in interest income was as much as 1 billion pesos less than what it paid out in interest expense. BSP also said that Banco Filipino's operational expenses were 2.5 times its interest income. As a result, total losses were at least 2 billion a year since 2007. Now, the bank has a negative net worth of 8.4 billion. Ricky said that mismanagement is not the issue. The bank probably failed due to fraud.
Did you say the word fraud, as in stealing? What do you mean?
According to Ricky, it seems like the bank was lending very large amounts of money to dummy corporations set up by Bobby Aguirre, the controlling shareholder of Banco Filipino and its former vice chairman. The dummy corporations, allegedly, had no financial capacity to pay the loans at the time of approval. Therefore, the bank had no business making those loans. The loans were supposedly repaid, allegedly through dación and pago, within 3 weeks to 6 months of loan disbursement. The loans were supposedly for real estate development, but since the loans were dacioned so soon after they were disbursed, it's highly unlikely that any real estate development took place.
What makes Ricky think they were dummy borrowers?
He says the loans were probably disguised to get around DOSRI limits of 20%. They could be a means of unloading unsaleable real estate on the bank. The dummy corporations also had common and interlocking directors, officers, and stockholders, some of whom are now officers of Banco Filipino. These guys were all related to Bobby Aguirre. Some were his friends, former employees, or children of his friends. The companies had interlocking ownerships. Each company owned other dummies, or owned each other. The companies also had common corporate addresses on properties owned by BF Homes Incorporated, a subsidiary of Banco Filipino. One company's corporate address was even the known residence of Bobby Aguirre. The real estate collateral provided by the dummies also came from companies that were related to Bobby Aguirre. Many came from BF Homes.
Okay, so maybe they really were dummy corporations, but maybe these related companies had the capacity to pay back the loans.
Would you be able to borrow hundreds of millions of pesos on capital of less than 100,000 pesos, and were showing losses on your books?
Wow. Let me in on that racket.
According to Ricky, what makes these loans especially dubious was that these loans were dationed right away, within weeks or months of loan disbursement.
What does dation mean?
Dation is short for dation in pago. It means that the borrower voluntarily turned over to the bank, with the bank's approval, the real estate collateral the borrower used to back the loan. The loan is then considered paid up, and the borrower is no longer liable for the loan. Dations, for a bank, are friendlier than foreclosures, because there is no need to wait for the one-year redemption period before the bank can sell the dationed properties. But dations are often a last resort, for a borrower already in default. A bank would normally try to work with the borrower to keep the loan current, so that it can continue to earn interest. If need be, the bank would also attempt to restructure the loan first, to match the cash flow of the borrower. Banks are also very selective about dations. They will accept a dation if they can put the property into good use, such as use it for a branch site. Banks are in the lending business, not the property development business.
But if the bank got property through dation, the bank was made whole then, because the value of collateral is usually higher than the loan itself.
Not necessarily. Not if the value of the collateral was inflated to begin with. According to Ricky, some of the loans had collateral that was valued by the bank at around 60,000 per square meter, when the comparative appraisal was only 3,000 to 7,000 per square meter.
Overvalued by that much? Then it becomes a scam.
Yes, if it's overvalued by that much, it becomes a way to get cash out of the bank. And it becomes even more of a scam if the properties were dationed right away. It means that the borrowers didn't even really try to develop the properties, or even make the first payment on the loan. It also means that the bank didn't even attempt to restructure the loan to keep it current and make it continue earning interest.
What would the bank do then to all these properties that were dationed?
They were supposedly resold to other dummy companies at even higher prices, allowing the bank to make a profit on real estate sales, even though it wasn't making money on loans. This way, the whole fraudulent cycle could begin again.
Wow. Unbelievable. But all this sounds pretty general. Did Ricky ever give specific examples?
He did. And he showed me some documents. He mentioned this company called Filipino Vastland, a real estate company. Its listed corporate address was known as the residence of Bobby Aguirre. Maxy Abad became Vastland's chairman and president. Maxy Abad was a former treasurer of BF Homes who is now the EVP and board member of Banco Filipino. In March 2001, the company was 24% owned by BF Homes.
And so what of it?
This is where it gets interesting. In 2001, Vastland applied for, and got approval for, a loan of 109 million pesos for real estate development. They were going to acquire and develop a 3-hectare property in San Nicolas, Bacoor, into a mixed-use subdivision. Vastland was supposed to put up 85 million pesos of the total project cost of 193 million. Vastland only had 41 million in capital.
Where did Vastland's collateral come from?
The loan Vastland received was collateralized by properties of BF General Insurance, BF Life, BF Homes, and Philippine Waterworks, all Aguirre companies. The properties had a value of over 150 million. The loan was disbursed in August 2001.
Then what?
Then in September 2001, Vastland gets approval for another loan, this time for 240 million. Vastland was to acquire and develop a 9-hectare property in Paliparan, Cavite. The project was expected to cost 430 million, of which Vastland would finance 190 million. The loan was also collateralized by property that was suspected to belong to BF Homes.
And then?
Then it gets curiouser and curiouser. At the same time the loan was approved, the board authorized the disposal of around 12 hectares of land in Paliparan, Cavite.
Maybe it's just a coincidence.
We don't know for sure. The timing and the location is suspicious. Ricky suspects Vastland got the loan so that it could acquire Banco Filipino's properties in Paliparan.
Were the loans disbursed?
They were disbursed, almost immediately, from October 2001 until December 2001.
So, what if the loans were fully disbursed right away?
Normally, a bank staggers the release of a loan according to the rate of the project's completion.
So what happened?
Then it gets even more interesting. By the time January 2002 rolls around, Maxy Abad, Vastland's chairman and president, becomes a Banco Filipino officer and board member. Because he jumped ship from borrower to lender, the loan was no longer considered DOS-free.
So, who took over Vastland?
A 20-plus-year-old guy by the name of Jose Luis F. Mati III. He is the son of Jose Luis K. Mati Jr., a childhood friend of Bobby Aguirre.
So, a 20-something-year-old guy became the chairman and president of a company with $350 million in loans?
Yes. And in October 2002, this guy sends a proposal to Banco Filipino to settle their loans with the bank by means of dation and pago. The properties dation were valued at $492 million, and the loan they extinguished amounted to $410 million, representing mostly principal and unpaid interest.
Were the loans already past due?
No, they were not. But still, Banco Filipino approved the dation within 2 days. And Maxy Abad, who was already on the board, was present in that board meeting.
It looks really funny.
Yes, it does. It looks really fun.